5 finalists, who 2 of whom had been through our program in Colorado, the Vail Jazz Workshop. So it was very exciting, especially exciting because one of our alumni won. So,
wow.
and yeah, so a lot of travel and a lot more coming. I can't let the grass grow under my feet. I just feel like I just gotta go do, don't we all? I mean, at this point, if we're healthy and if we can afford it, we gotta go.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you have coming up? What's next?
Egypt and Jordan in October. And then March, I'm going to Singapore, around Indonesia, ending up in India.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. In between, I'm trying to get my life in order, which.
Where's continue? Leave meeting. Got it. How do
You're
I,
good.
how do I get back on?
You're on, John, no problem.
I just have this sign that's saying
Well,
that the
ignore it.
meeting is, I mean,
Ignore
that's
it.
all I can see is this big white sign. And is there a way I can get back to the visuals of all of you?
Why don't you start over?
How do I do that? You mean,
End meeting and start over?
oh, you mean just push that thing again? Okay, I'll try, hold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marty, since our time with you is limited, tell us how you got to do the photo work for LA Times. Where'd you go to college? What led you to that river?
Well, it was Time Magazine, not the LA
Oh,
Times.
sorry.
Oh, life has interesting twists and turns. I wouldn't say there was any direct path to be there, just maybe good fortune, some friends that suggested I interview for a job. I got it. Official training in journalism. But I did, my father was a film director and producer. And so I had a lot of experience sort of visually. I would say that's my favorite sense, orienting me in the world visually. And so I kind of ended up with the right skill set. And I was the West Coast photo editor for Time Magazine, which meant that I made the assignments in conjunction with the photo department in New York for the 14 Western states. So it was a wonderful job. I never missed a day. I don't think I was ever sick. And except for vacation time, I loved going. We had a bureau in Beverly Hills and then in Westwood and then in Brentwood. I grew up in Brentwood and I actually live 5 minutes from where I grew up. When I went to work every day, I live in the Palisades. I passed Paul Revere, Brentwood Elementary School, and Uni High. Our last bureau was in sight of Uni High. So it was sort of a sense of having been very far in my life and ending up in the same place. That was a wonderful job. But journalism, when I started in the early 80s, journalism to when our bureau closed in that 2007, 8, 9, journalism had changed, photojournalism had changed dramatically. And so it was time for a young generation for sure.
What did you major in college?
I went to Berkeley. I majored in history, modern American, and I went to Brandeis University for 1 year, my junior year. I lived in New York for several years. That's kind of how I worked at a Time Inc. company. That's kind of how I ended up at Time Magazine here. Came back, married. I have one son who's 48 and a wonderful daughter-in-law, 2 granddaughters. And it's been a wonderful life. I have to say, I'm going to be 80 in July. I guess most of us are 80 or going to be 80. I would say it's the best time I've ever had in my life, kind of right now. So.
What are
Marty,
you
what-
focusing on in terms of doing good works in the community?
So, my kids live in Santa Monica, and I was been a very active grandma. They went to school, Santa Monica schools, and they went to a school called Edison Language Academy. It's a Spanish immersion school. And all the trips back and forth to picking up kids at that school when they were there, I noticed in 2017 that Santa Monica was opening a new community garden. And so I immediately volunteered. And over the past 6+ years, I've become the de facto volunteer manager of that community garden. It's the only garden within the Santa Monica community garden system that's fully communal. So we all volunteer, we grow food for the neighborhood. We run a food bank once a week, and it's extraordinarily fulfilling. We are very diverse by age, by nationality, and it's just wonderful. And then I'm very politically active. I went to Brentwood Elementary School, and I forget what grade, 4th or 5th grade, Adlai Stevenson ran against Eisenhower, and I campaigned for Adlai Stevenson at Brentwood Elementary School. And I haven't stopped my political activism since. So those two things, I run a postcard group. We write postcards to voters about Democratic candidates. I've run that since 2017. We've written over 100,000 postcards, a very small little group. That's basically those are the two big things in my life.
Yeah, Linda Sobel is really similar interests, and she's fairly near you. You two should definitely be in touch.
Yeah, for a while I did run into her. I forget in what circumstance. We did have some paths crossed. But I mean, I think I was on mute when I said this. My closest friend called. Her daughter's starting chemotherapy tomorrow. I really need to connect with her. I'll do this again with all of you. I'm a Zoom fanatic. I really felt that this was the one wonderful thing that happened with the pandemic, that I've gone to all kinds of conferences and Zoom meetings, kind of all over the world. And I love this format. So Gail, send me the link. I'll do it again. And I'm really sorry, but I really feel tugged.
Yeah.
Martha, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
My name's John Lees. I never met you, but I'm very good friends with.
You're very good friends with Joel.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had a
Sure.
question for you, because
Yeah.
did you go to Westlake?
No, I went to, I went to Brentwood Elementary School. And then
Okay.
Emerson Junior High for one semester until Paul Revere opened, and then to Uni High. And then, and I disconnected from our class because I took classes at Santa Monica College, Santa Monica High School, and I graduated a semester early. So I started Berkeley in the fall of 1960.
Okay. You must have known Connie Reynolds, did you?
Don't know.
Okay.
Don't-
All right.
yeah,
She left Emerson. She was in our class and she went to, so
Uh-huh.
I just didn't.
So the people that
Thank
I
you.
remember most were the Brentwood Elementary School kids. That's like, anyway, please, Gail, let me join again.
Oh, of
Okay,
course,
yeah.
of course.
And
Thank you
Thanks.
for coming on.
My
Daniel,
pleasure.
I didn't hear what your surgery is, but I wish you the best of
Oh,
luck.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. And I hope to see you next time.
Okay,
Bye, Marty.
bye.
Bye, Marty.
Bye.
Let's see, since Kathy's got to go, tell us about one of your best exciting adventures and all your recent travels. You got an adventure story for us?
Oh. Um. Well, the, what pops in my mind, which is, not, it's an almost terrible story, but it turned out to be okay. So my 13-year-old granddaughter and I were taken to the airport for our flight on Air France to Paris. And Air France is operated in the United States by, what's that airline company? Delta. So I had bought business class tickets for us. I wanted her to be a princess, probably for the only time in her life, because she'll travel, and she'll travel with a knapsack on her back like we did. But anyway, so we had 2 hours. We checked right in, and we went to sit in the lounge. And when I got to the lounge, they said, you know, Air France, even though it's operated by Delta, doesn't, or Delta, whatever, doesn't communicate. They don't allow us to announce the flights. So I said, okay, fine. Well, you know, we know what time our flight is boarding. I had my boarding pass right there. So about 45 minutes or an hour before it was time to board, I got an email from Delta Airlines saying, your flight has been delayed. Please, it has now been moved to 5:25, so don't go to the gate. So our flight was supposed to leave at 3:45. So at about 4:30, I go over to the gate with plenty of time, and there's no one there.
No.
Well, I find out that our flight has taken off.
Oh, no.
That Delta Airlines sent me the wrong information.
Oh,
And
dear.
here I am with a 13-year-old, and we have missed our flight to Paris.
Oh, dear.
So I was panic stricken. The gate agent said, oh, I'm so sorry, you're gonna have to call Air France and reschedule. And I said, you don't understand. I said, I've got this kid here with me. I said, it's not my fault. Look at my phone. Look at this email I got, or this text I got from Delta. And she said, well, that's Delta. That's not Air France. It can't help you.
Oh,
I said, I'd like to talk to the gate agent. And he came out, and I showed him the text, and I, you know, showed my 13-year-old granddaughter. And I said, you've got to get us on a flight. Well, lo and behold, and everybody listen carefully, because if you raise enough of a stink, they always hold back a couple of seats. Because we were on the 7:30 flight because of this very nice man who realized that it really wasn't a fault of ours. So talk about an adventure. Always go to the gate when your ticket says you're supposed to go to the gate. Do not trust any emails or texts that you get from an airline. That's other than that, the trip was great. We did all kinds of incredible fun things for a 13-year-old. And if anyone wants to go to Paris with me any other time soon, I'd like an adult trip. But it was really fun.
Oh, great. Kathy, catch us up a bit about what you've been up to. And you're in Washington, right?
Oh, me? No, we're in Idaho.
Idaho.
North Idaho. We're near Coeur d'Alene, which is about 100 miles south of the Canadian border. But talking about what happened to Kathy, we did something like that. We were in Bordeaux, France, and we'd finished a river cruise, and we were to catch a train. We were going to go on our own to Spain. And we had our tickets and our reservations, first class on the train. And when we got there, plenty of time, someone said the trains were on strike. And I thought, oh, great, here we are. And what are we going to do? Well, and they said it was just that one time of day the train was on strike. Anyway, I ended up in a long line with only a French-speaking agent. And they put us on the next train, but they wouldn't guarantee our first class passage. And so I did end up in first class with 3 ladies that spoke French, and they were eating their croissants. And my husband sat in the back of the train on top of the luggage.
Oh dear.
And so, and we finally did get to our destination, and we were probably an hour and a half or 2 hours later than I intended to be there. So we were going to take a taxi over to another town, and there were no taxis at that train station. We were near San Sebastian, and we were headed to Guitarria. So I asked some lady who looked like she had a van, and she spoke a little English, and she helped us find someone who would drive us that far. And the guy said it would be 120 euros to go from San Sebastian to Guitarria. And I thought, wait a minute, what am I going to do? And I thought, I have no other choice. So it was 120 euros, but it was because people in the train station were saying, oh, your train's been canceled. But we found out later on it hadn't been, and we should have gone to the platform that had been designated, but we didn't. You know, you live and you learn.
It's really interesting, similar to Kathy's story.
Yeah. So
Um,
anyway,
Any other travel stories to share?
Is that Taffy Johnson?
yes,
Yes.
it is.
Taffy, that is you. I'm John
John.
Lees. I don't know if you remember me.
I
But-
do. You go ahead and then I'll interrupt you.
Well, the thing is, I stayed very good friends with Mike Murray over the years.
Oh,
And,
yes.
You know, he died in 2010.
Yeah, he died too early.
He and I and Fred Krull had these heart attacks. I survived, the 2 of them did not. But Mike
Hmm.
always mentioned you when he talked about somebody he really liked from our class.
Oh,
And I
how
wanted to
sweet.
tell you that.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that sweet? Yeah, thank you. I think I was friendly with him in the 10th or 11th grade. I don't remember. Yeah, he was very nice. And I know he was in charge of the website. And
Yes, he was. Yeah.
well, and all of a sudden the website went away, and I'm so sorry. Well, that was very nice of you to share that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to. I
Made my
remember
day.
very well.
Made my
too,
day.
of course.
But
Yeah,
weren't
I'm
you
glad.
you were good friends with Fred Marks, weren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
with and Owen Meldy and
Yeah. Well, I see
Joe Rosenberg.
Fred Marks passed away, and I remember him at our last reunion. What did he pass away from?
Oh gosh, he had everything. He was
Oh.
he was bedridden from a stroke for about
Oh.
a year, and then he had a heart attack and had these other internal. But I stayed in touch. We talked like a couple of times a week in the last 6 months of his life, which I was very happy. You know, that we had a chance to talk a lot during that period.
That's sad. My husband taught with Fred's father at Palisades.
okay.
Yeah, with George Marks.
Oh
And
yeah,
so-
I knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my husband was really good friends with George and Dale Marks.
Oh, that's
before I came
terrific.
into the picture. And then we went over a couple of times for dinner, and I said, yeah, I knew Fred from high school. And I think I went out with Fred once or twice, and I remember his parents driving us to the movies. And of course, you know, as a kid in the 10th or 11th grade, you don't remember what the parents look like. And so then after I met them later in life, I started putting it all together. Oh, you probably drove us to the movies. But anyway, I remember Fred came to the 50th, and he brought his daughter. And
Oh,
my
she's
husband
great.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband was real nice to the daughter. He was saying how much he liked her grandparents and how nice the grandmother was, Dale. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
you get all these little threads in life.
Did they know Gerald Trett? He was in the English department at Pally
Trett,
also.
Yeah, Jerry Trett, my husband knew him.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I stayed in touch with him. I was very,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I enjoyed talking to him over the years. And
He also
John,
knew
you said
Gordon
something.
Stamp.
You said
I'm
something
sorry.
interesting that that Tret said that the class that graduated in '61 was kind of a golden era compared to students later and before.
Oh, I know I know Holtby said that. It's easy to think of them together. I think that was Holtby. Roger told us that story.
And what was his reasoning? Why was that class?
You
so-
know, I don't know. Holtby stayed a teacher for a very long time at uni. I mean, like 30 years after we left.
Wow.
And I honestly don't know. I'd be trying to remember rumors that I can't remember at all, and I'd start inventing things.
I
had
still
a-
remember purpose, passion, and perception, and understanding the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Oh yeah, we were in the same class.
Yeah. They were
That
good
was an
teachers.
amazing class. The best class I ever had at uni was his world lit class.
What was funny is they said that all of us who went to UCLA and Berkeley, who took the test to see if we'd be in quote dumbbell English or English 1, they thought we all cheated because we all did the straw man format. Some people think that A, but B because 1, 2, 3. So they thought we cheated.
Oh my goodness.
Taffy, I had a question. What department did your husband teach in?
My husband was at Palisades High, and he taught history and later on government. He taught the advanced placement history students.
And what did Fred Marx's father teach?
English.
Oh,
Yeah, George Marx was
Oh,
an
he
English.
wasn't doing drama at Pally because he was at Fremont for years teaching
Oh,
drama.
really? I don't think, I'll have to ask my husband after we get off, finish, but, oh, my husband's in the background.
Oh,
Didn't know he was there. I'll turn the camera, so, oh, he's, so George did not teach drama.
he didn't. I know John Drury was there. He went to Pally, so maybe.
Classic Shakespeare and English is what he taught.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Bill, catch us up. Tell us about your adventures, what you're thinking about the current state of the world.
Well, that's a wide open question,
You
and
bet.
it doesn't look very good from my perspective. But John, I wanted to ask you about Owen Melody. Is he still-
Yeah. I haven't talked to him for years. I mean, I think I called him up once. Oh, I think maybe around the time of the 30th reunion, but I haven't talked to him since then. That's why I was talking about, contacting individuals that we could maybe write emails to people that, like people that we were good friends with at Emerson or high school or something like that. And that's
Yeah.
why I brought him up, but I haven't talked to him in a long time.
I think I started kindergarten with he and Mike Murray, so it was back a long way. I was going to say just one travel incident I had. I used to travel a lot for business, and this was over 10 years ago. So maybe the situation isn't the same, but at the time, Australia was about the only Western country that required a visa for a US citizen. I was at a business trip in Europe and ended up when I was at the Amsterdam airport like 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon because I had a meeting in Sydney at Monday morning. And I was booked on a flight to go from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur and then connect with a flight into Sydney. And when I showed up, luckily I showed up 4 hours early. They said, well, where's your visa? And I said, well, my travel agent didn't tell me I needed a visa to go to Australia. What do you do? And luckily KLM went back to the New York office and got the New York embassy to give me a visa electronically, and I made the flight and got to Australia. But
Wow.
hopefully Australia doesn't require visas anymore, but who knows?
Wow.
Yeah. Now, you asked a question earlier, where did I take my 6, 10, and 12-year-old grandchildren by myself? Skiing up in Dodge Ridge, which is up in the Gold Country on the Sonora Pass, which is about one of the only passes that goes from the San Joaquin Valley over to the Orange Valley. I'd never skied there before. It was very nice. It was great for the kids. And for my 80th birthday, I went to Sun Valley, skied there for 3 days, which has just kind of been a favorite place for me.
It's Sun Valley.
Sun Valley, yeah.
I haven't skied there. But it's true that snow in Colorado and Utah is better than Sierra Sledge. It's a treat to ski in that light snow.
Yeah, no, it's been great.
So, Bill, are you hopeful or are you unhopeful in terms of the current political? I know you think about the political and economic scene with depth. So
Yeah, I think, mixed feelings that technology certainly has improved all of our lives, especially when it comes to medical technology. My fear for my grandchildren is the decline in morality. Take one example. In the 1950s, I mean, in that 10 years, there was hardly ever a mass shooting. And now it seems like it's almost every day. And I think when you look at you try and figure out why that is, a lot of it, I think, is related to progressivism, the increase in secularism. So many kids just don't seem to have any focus. They're scared by climate change. They don't want to have children. I mean, and now you see a much higher rate of depression. There's something wrong deep in our society that needs to be addressed, and I don't think it's being addressed. I think people are just trying to cover it up with drugs and medicines and make it go away so we don't have to recognize it. Beyond that, in the border, I mean, we're suffering an invasion, and we've already had 6 million people in 2 years cross the border. And in New York City, who has maybe a few hundred, it costs them $5 million a day to support them. And we're deeply in debt. We're trying to support people who are not citizens, and we're ignoring the citizens who are homeless on the streets, and we're not even addressing that. We're wasting billions of dollars trying to help the homeless, and I think all we're doing is helping the bureaucracies that are trying to help the homeless, because the homeless problem is only getting worse, not better. So that's just a few thoughts.
But how would you address the youth crisis of anxiety and depression and fear about the future? Because climate change is a real threat, and the kind of lack of morality of political leaders like Trump is a real issue. So how do we change that?
I don't think climate change is an existential threat. I think it's highly overrated. I think it's a political movement. Our Earth has been colder and it's been warmer in year 1000. It was warmer then than it is now. And, we've only had the industrial age in the last 100 years or so. So the Earth is constantly changing. Look at how many ice ages we've had, depending upon your beliefs in science or religion. The Earth is always changing. We are not going to change the climate. But man is not going to change the climate, would be my assumption. The climate is too extensive. We don't understand it as much as the scientists claim they understand it. They really don't. Yeah.
John,
I had a thought I wanted to ask, well, Gail, I've never talked with anybody about this, but I'm wondering about with the mass shootings, if it's kind of an epidemic of a lack of imagination, of people copycatting and getting the idea somehow that a gun is a means of expression. Kind of at the same times that there are cutbacks in public schools of art programs, creative writing, and music. I wonder if there's any kind of correlation between those things.
that's an interesting thought from an artist.
Well, it seems that really people are thinking, well, this gun is the way that I can express my feelings. And if there's some other way that I think the only thing, not knowing what I'm talking about, I can freely say, until some other thing attracts people's attention. That's a thought I've had. I don't know, Bill or Gay or any of you. What do you think of that?
Danny, are you still teaching? You teach these current event kind of topics, so you probably have some thoughts on this.
Well, yeah, I lead discussions, I volunteer. After I retired, I volunteer at assisted living homes and then on Zoom with COVID, leading discussions on current events. But I think it was very interesting what John just said as an artist, because it's true, because of budget crisis, all these after-school programs have been cut. Music, art, band, even athletics in some schools. And so, and then it just listening to John, I thought of what they call midnight basketball, where instead of kids hanging out in front of a 7-Eleven would play basketball with adult supervision. I don't know the answer at all, but it is really, like Bill said, it's every day. I couldn't believe it. It was in the New York Times on page 27. How many mass shootings are almost every day, and it is extreme. And everyone who has grandchildren like us, it's so scary and worrisome. Anyway,
I'm gonna have to leave, but I just want to say one quick thing. And that is that the arts and the sports that are no longer in the schools cause some of the depression, I believe, because the children don't have a means of belonging to a community of like-minded others. And so they withdraw, they join a gang, or they buy guns. I don't know. But I think that I would question whether or not the press exacerbates some of the mass shootings by making heroes of the people who perpetrate the crimes. And I'm going to leave you with that. I'd love to hear what you guys think, and I'll be looking forward to reading the
okay, and
notes.
Kathy,
I wish you all well.
Kathy, I'll go to Paris with you if I survive the surgery.
All right.
Okay.
Good. That sounds good, Danny. All right.
Okay.
See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, Kathy, for hopping on. I'll tell you a travel story that I met a woman from Cairo who was at Chico State for a teacher's program, and she invited me to come and visit her. And so we arranged, when I would be there, and she said, I lift you from the airport. In other words, I'll pick you up. So I went to England first and Stonehenge and Avesbury. And then I arrived in the airport in Cairo with all these women in Purda and, everybody obviously speaking Arabic, and she was not there. And then I had her number. I had someone call her. She did not answer. So after a couple of hours, I had her address. And so they found me a taxi driver who spoke English. And I wanted to sit in the front so I could talk to him. And he put his hands on my thighs. I said, no, strangers don't touch each other. We don't do that. But he did find her place. And as we pulled up, she came out of the building and she said, Gail, what are you doing here? I said, you were going to lift me from the airport. And she said, oh, well, there's too much traffic. And then I went with her to their sports club and I was working on a book about global youth. So I got to interview a bunch of youth, which was great. And then it turned out that her husband didn't want me there. And it was a small little apartment in a big block building, but I never met him. So he didn't introduce himself or say welcome or anything. So she had me sleep on the floor in one of the in her son's bedroom. And then she said, my husband said, you have to go. I'm sorry. And I hadn't made travel plans because she and I were going to travel and go to Dahab, to the coast, for me to snorkel and her to be on the beach. So I was nervous, as you can imagine, alone in Cairo. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take a taxi to the Hilton, because I will talk to the concierge. So they'll have someone there who can help me. And so they did. I didn't want to fly across the Sinai. I wanted to take a bus so I would see it. So that was an adventure on a bus by myself across the Sinai Desert to Dahab, because I love to snorkel. And then in Dahab, this travel agent took pity on me because I told him my story of having my travel plans explode. And so he arranged a great trip for me, and he would check on it. And if someone didn't show up to pick me up at the airport, he would find someone else. So he kept guardianship of me on that whole trip. So it all worked out. But I was anxious, but I can work on a book no matter what. So I just sat in her apartment and edited a manuscript for a couple of days until she kicked me out. End of story.
Where are you going with your grandson? You said you're going to be on a trip.
We're going to, I really like Club Med, and we're going to Club Med Bahamas because I'm a snorkel freak. And they said that the water there is clear and beautiful, and Club Med is perfect because it's totally safe. He's 12, he'll be 13 in August, so he can just roam. And they have a kids club, and if he doesn't want to go snorkeling with me early in the morning, I'll feel just fine letting him sleep in and me going snorkeling. And he's very picky about food. They have, these huge buffets. So he'll have oodles of choices in food. So it just seemed like a great place for a 12.
Sounds perfect. Yeah.
He's taller than I am now. So it's amazing how fast they grow.
Yeah. Have a nice time. That's good.
Thank you. So last time we were going to talk about how we made our choices in our partnerships. So hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry to be late.
Do you want to say anything about anything?
Well, I've been working on the name tags and we have almost 80 people now, so it's
Wow,
really
Wow.
a nice turnout.
that's great.
And we'll
Well,
have
so,
Kathy and we'll have a substitute for Dan, Bill and Christine.
so
Sorry you
there's,
can't be there, Gail.
Yeah. We were just talking about my grandson. So what we were going to chat about last time is how people decide on their life partners, or how they decide that they're not going to be their life partner. So Danny, since you're on the screen, how did you decide your wife was the person you were going to marry and then unmarry?
you asked me, Gail? I could, okay.
I know
Oh
you.
God, okay, well, being very indecisive and very wishy-washy. Well, kind of, I mean, to be blunt, not
You sound
like
me.
not like Dave and Bill, or but more like John a little bit. John's an artist and he's a little less of an alpha male, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But
I'm more the kind that would come with a note from my mother asking me to be excused from any kind of alphabetical categorization. I worked up that answer before. I was just waiting for the chance to use it.
Well, so I actually, well, yeah, so I mean, I'm being brutally honest. Maxine, who I was attracted to the second I saw her, and she offered to make me dinner, which was very nice. And then we
Wait, you were both Berkeley students?
Yes, yes, that's how I met her. Yeah, Berkeley. And so then we went with each other. That was 1964 or 5. And then we were boyfriend and girlfriend off and on and kind of fought a lot, make up and, but so then it's not a good way to get married. She gave me an ultimatum. We get married or I go back to New York. And so then I said, yeah, yes, we'll get married. And then we did. And then we still fought and, that was a stormy relationship. But then we had 2 wonderful children, 2 boys, that I'm very, very close with. The older one's 48 and the younger one's 44 and very, very close. And I'm thankful and grateful for that. And we stayed married, we got married in 1969 and then separated in 82 and then divorced in 86. Yeah, 86 was the legal divorce, but every relationship I've had subsequently after we divorced, every woman said the same thing. Dan, technically you're divorced, but in reality, you're still married to Maxine, which was right. We spent holidays, birthdays, together and all that. So anyway, and then of course, when she was ill, I helped her a lot with everything. And yeah, so she passed away 4.5 years ago. And then actually, it's kind of funny. I did meet a woman, so I'm kind of in a relationship, but it's only 2 months old. So who knows? Who knows? But she's very similar. She's from New York, short, Jewish, a therapist.
Therapist.
Anyway, so and very nurturing and maternal, so that's very nice.
Did you meet her on a dating site? I know you.
Well, actually, yeah, and that, Gail, this is what's so weird and funny. I was on a dating site for 1 year, Match.com. It just was a terrible experience, the whole thing, but I won't go into it. But I only met one person and she was real nice, but there wasn't chemistry. And so I got off of it. So I didn't pay anything, but somehow I saw Fran, this woman in Berkeley, on Match.com, and I wrote and it went through, and I gave her my phone number and email and she called, and then that's what happened. But the coincidence is we had so many people in common. I mean, her father was a very good friend of a close friend of mine, father. Well, anyway, I'll try to be short. Dave and Bill will really object to this, but she was a red diaper baby. And then
What is that?
Yeah.
that her
Communist.
yeah, that her mother and father were godless communists in the 1920s
30, yeah.
and 30s. But back then, many people were attracted to socialism and communism because of the Great Depression and workers being exploited anyway. So, so she knows all these people in Berkeley that I know, old lefties from a long, long time ago. Well, anyway, who knows? I'll keep you up to date. But did I answer everything, Gay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, but I just want to say, I wanted to thank you profusely for doing this all the time, organizing
Fun.
it.
I like doing it. No.
Well,
work,
no,
but
and
fun.
I'd love it to continue. And I wanted to thank Dave profusely for all of his hard work
Yeah.
doing
Dave's
the
done the work.
reunion. But then I found out he had an ulterior motive. He wanted 80 people to be at his birthday. And so that's why he did it on the 31st.
Of course, you knew that.
Oh, that's-
Happy birthday, Dave.
Not
Yeah.
yet, but yeah, thank you.
Let's see, but Bill's next on my screen. You needed to learn from a first marriage what you wanted in your long-term marriage, right?
Yeah, that was a good learning experience. And then there was about a 9-year period of time where I was exposed to a lot of different people, which helped me mold what I thought would be a good mate. So that all worked out very well.
How did you know? What was your criteria? This one I really want to make a commitment to.
That's a good question. You know, sometimes things just click, but I wanted someone who was relatively independent, intelligent, and my wife fit that criteria, and loved children.
Kathy, what about you? Is this your first intact marriage?
Yeah, this is my first marriage. Yeah. And my
And last-
husband's listening in the background. He's sitting behind me. I better watch what I say.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't have to leave.
So how
well,
did you
yeah,
know he was the one you wanted to marry?
You know, I didn't set out or have any criteria. I think I met Dave when I was 25 when I met him, and he was a nice person, and he's very smart, and he liked to ski, and I like to ski, and oh, he was showing me on Meacham. He had a beautiful '68 convertible GTO, and that really helped the deal there.
That was it.
That really was the deal, and he let me drive that for quite a while. I had a little 64 Carmen Ghia that he didn't trust, so he took the Carmen Ghia and I took his GTO. So I thought that was a pretty good trade. But no, I can't say. I just thought he was really nice, very smart. I respected his intellect, and he was respected he was on the faculty, as I said, at Palisades High, and was respected by his other teachers. And, you know, it just seemed to click. And we dated only 2 weeks. And
Wow.
yeah, only 2 weeks. And we had talked, he bought a condominium at Mammoth. And we took a trip up to look at it one time in those 2 weeks. And when we came back from the trip, I remember how my father looked at me, and I'm 25 years old, living on my own. And he gave me this look. So that night, Dave and I went out to Jack's at the beach for dinner. And while we were talking, he talked about skiing in the winter. And I said, my father, here I'm 25 years old, my father won't approve of me going skiing with you. And then he said, well, I guess I'll have to make an honest woman out of you, or something to that effect, right? And so I sat there a moment thinking, well, this sounds like a proposal. And so I said yes. I mean, I thought about it a few moments, and I said yes. And all of a sudden we were engaged after 2 weeks. And then that was August, and we got married in October. And then, of course, my father thought I was pregnant. And so I know the day after, Dave came up from Palisades High up to my office for lunch. And I said, well, my dad says I ought to get a ring. And because my father didn't think my husband had noble intentions. And so I told Dave, I said, well, my dad says I ought to get a ring. I'm so dumb and naive. So we went over to the local jewelry store in Pacific Palisades, Denton's Jewelers. And we, looked over the case, and I said, well, that one looks nice. And we bought it. And then after about a week, my mother says, well, Dad says you ought to go buy a wedding dress. And we hadn't even set a date yet. I mean, it was like my dad was pushing along. He actually thought I was pregnant. So Mom said, well, we need to go wedding dress shopping. And I said, well, we haven't even picked a date yet. And so I didn't realize you're supposed to be engaged a while. I had no idea. I just know we got engaged and then people got married. So we got engaged in August, we were married in October, and we've been married almost 55 years. So it's worked out. So,
No,
so-
It's a great story.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
but
But I just have to interrupt because I have to Zoom a doctor at 5 o'clock. So I need to say goodbye,
Oh.
but I just wanted to thank Gay and Dave again and say I'd like to keep doing these. And
Mhm.
and yes, I just wanted to say thank you, also John and Taffy, and and look, can you see this, John? I mean, I mean, Bill and Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah. When
Yeah,
was that
see,
taken?
it's from one of the reunions. And I just wanted to say, because real fast, because before you came, Dave, we were having kind of a little political discussion. And so I'm too homophobic to use the word LOVE, but I really, even though we disagree and don't see eye to eye on all these things, really, Bill and Dave, I respect both of you, really. No, I do, and your service and everything. And yeah, I'm sorry I can't go to the reunion.
Well,
And
Dan,
so
I
you're,
could say it. We love you.
okay,
Best of luck with your
good. You're not
surgery.
homophobic, Dave. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dan.
and,
Bye.
Taffy, do you know Merrill Dean?
Who?
Merrill
Meryl?
Dean?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I don't.
Yeah,
think I
he was
do.
a couple of years ahead of us, and he also lives in Coeur d'Alene, so,
Really? Oh, haven't met. Oh,
yeah.
gee. Well, I know, Bruce Meyer lives in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, does he?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what, who we were at our 50th reunion. Gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. I referred to him last time. Anyway, one guy said to me that Bruce Meyer lives in Coeur d'Alene, and I knew he was a retired police officer. So I asked a lady who I golf with, who's a retired LAPD, and I asked her, I said, do you know Bruce Meyer? And she said, yes, I do. And she said, he's very private. He's got a large family around, but I'd
Wow.
always hoped I'd run into him or he'd come to a reunion or something, but no, Merrill Dean, that familiar name, but it'd be nice to know where that person lives.
Okay.
I'll keep my eye out. I'll
All
keep my ear out.
Okay, John, what about you, your wife?
Well, I sort of, I spend a lot of time watching old movies, and I'm sorry, but I can't resist. Do you remember the movie The Conqueror? It was about where John Wayne played Genghis Khan. It came out in 1956, and there's a famous line when he sees Susan Hayward for the first time, and he says, "This Tartar woman is for me, and my blood says, take her." Well, I sort of knew I could be married to my wife, Ruth, almost as soon as I saw her. And she was coming, and the thought actually went through my head, I could be married to this person. And she was an art student, and I was a guest speaker at the college she was going to. And that actually was true. And we just hooked up. I was in Detroit, that's where she was going to school and lived. And it didn't take long, many meetings, but I just sort of knew right away.
And how long have you been married?
Let's see, math was not my good point. Let's see, 1982.
Oh,
Is that 50 years? No, what is it?
no.
40, 41,
82 is 45, Marley, 45?
41, yeah.
Okay, yeah, then just over 40.
A
But did she-
newlywed.
We're
Yeah.
newlyweds, yeah.
Did she feel the same way as you did with an instantaneous kind of connection?
Oh, look over there. No, I don't know, I wouldn't wish me on anybody, frankly.
Well, she married you. You didn't hate her.
No, I honestly didn't know. No, yes, she did. And, what Dave said earlier, the clue to staying married is not getting divorced. That's sort of what we did. But I don't know, we've always been very supportive to one another, and we both have studios in the same house, and I guess I start and stammer on this subject,
Interesting.
but other people's feelings and things like that.
Dave's story and Rose's story is in the Happy Marriages book, but was it love at first sight for you, Dave? I don't think so.
Pretty close, but
Huh.
we had an advantage in that, I was 2 months away from graduating from high school. She was still in the 11th grade. And then I went off after 6 months to West Point. We had that whole time after our graduation, before I started West Point in July, to really get to know each other. And it's probably fortunate in a way. West Point, you cannot become a cadet if you have a horse or a car or a wife.
They don't
Yeah,
have the thing about the mustache anymore.
They do. They didn't way back when, but they did when I went there. No mustaches,
Yeah.
no beards.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be married 58 years in December. But we had the relationship had to overcome being apart for basically for 3,000 miles in 4 years. That was quite a test. But even after that, we didn't get married right away after I graduated. We waited another 6 months. So I think we really knew each other very well, a little opposite of Taffy and Dave. And I think that test of having to see whether the romance will last over that many miles and that many years was very good. And then it positioned us well for challenges we would have later in life.
Like you flying and being away in the Vietnam War, that was because she had babies at that point, right?
Yeah. When I went to Vietnam, we had our son. And so there were, all those challenges that came up, but I think we were well positioned for that and still are.
And I think your faith has been really an important glue as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Common values, that kind of thing. Yeah. So to get back to John's point, John, you wanted to suggest that we do outreach, kind of like that was done for the reunion, where people who have that would like to get to know how so-and-so doing, we do outreach to them. What do you
Well,
want?
I was wondering about this, and see what you guys think. I keep thinking, I would love to see Owen Meldy. I would love to see Orrin Robinson. I would love to see Gary Shalander. I'd love to see Barry Brisk. They're people I just had some kind of connections with. And I don't know how most people would respond, say, to a large list. There'll be a reunion. I don't know if they know what it would be, a reunion or a Zoom list. And I have a feeling that most people that come to these things must have these kinds of thoughts. Gee, I'd love to see this person or this. I would love to if I could get their emails, I could give Gail a short list. And I would just write to the people on my short list and say, I'd like to see you. These Zoom meetings are great. You know, they're interesting. I didn't know what I'd think of it, you know, but I've found it to be, you know, something I've really liked, and maybe they would like it. And that was the thought I had. And I'm sure I have a feeling most of you must have some feelings about these things that I don't even know if they're live. People I haven't seen in a long time. Well, you know, so Gary Shalander went at the 40th reunion. Orrin Robinson, I've not seen since high school. Owen, I talked to 30 years ago, maybe, but you know, you hold these people in your mind, and that's what I was thinking about.
John, are you
And I
aware-
think, I'm sorry, Dave.
are you aware Gary passed?
No.
Yeah.
When did he
The
die?
tough part of this is finding out a lot of people have died.
Yes.
So Gary Shalander has passed away.
Well, was it recent? You
I don't know, just
you know.
as we tried to get a hold of all these people, and Bill and others made these phone calls, we're finding that they're not reachable, and then sometimes you find out they're deceased, so.
Yeah. No, I didn't. You know, Mike Murray and Fred Kroll and I, in 2010, each of us had heart attacks. Theirs were fatal. Mine happened to not be. You know, these things are happening. I'm losing so many, like just since 2019, I've lost 6 of my closest friends. I mean, and people I knew, most of these people were from uni, actually, all but one was from uni. And that's why I'm thinking about that.
If you think back to our 50th, that wonderful 50th we had at Peterson Automotive Museum, how many people have passed away since that, like Alan Adishek and Richard Atlas and so many.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave, do you think there's any issue with me sharing, like if John says, okay, here's my list of 5, give me the emails, I'll contact them. Any issue with sharing the emails, or it seems fine to me?
Not with me. I think we're too old for concerns. I think if they were on this list, then, you know, at some point they were willing to have their information shared, and I think wouldn't be a problem to try to contact them.
Okay, so if anyone has people that they're thinking, I wonder what's happening to so-and-so, email me and I'll see if I have their emails. And
I'll
Dave,
do that. I'll do that then. Yeah, I will do that.
Dave gave me an updated list of emails a while back that were harvested from calling people for the reunion. So we're pretty good. Well, thank you everyone for hopping on. I really appreciate it. And we'll do something in June, and let me know if there's days that you don't want, that don't work. And if you have any prompts, topics of discussion that you think would be lively.
Again, was that shooting in Chico near you?
Well, everything in Chico is near me. It's the 80,000. Yeah, there were 2 shootings. So yeah, they were in College Town, young people after party kind of thing. And yeah, I know a 17-year-old girl was killed.
It's too bad.
Gang related or?
I don't think so, but I know they weren't students.
Oh,
So I don't know. I don't know anything more about. The university sent around an email telling us what was happening. All they said was they weren't students.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Take care, you all. It's good to see you.
Where is Bill Crouch? I have to ask. His background is gorgeous. Where's Bill right now?
In Hawaii,
He's in Hawaii.
Kathy.
I thought so.
That's an important background that Zoom offers as a selection.
I've been wondering about that.
You're
Yeah.
in Montecito, right?
I'm in San Ynez, which is over the hill from Santa
Oh, yeah.
Barbara. Yeah.
Right. With the Apple
that's a-
speaker.
That's a
Pardon?
Zoom background you can get?
Yeah,
That's
there's an option somewhere on Zoom that gives you background options, or you can import a photo if you have one. And I did it so
Well-
long ago, I forget how to do it now.
Well, that looks nice. I was feeling very envious of you.
Well, I wish I was there, but
Uh-huh.
not,
Yeah.
not today.
Yeah. not
Okay.
to-
Take care. Happy
Yes.
reunion.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully see you all May